And we look at IoT as being dramatically different from enterprise technologies. Look, traditionally, we've had to secure roughly 5 things, right? Linux, Windows, and OS X running on Intel, iOS, and Android. But with IoT, the technologies are dramatically different in that they're purpose-built, they're resource challenged, they barely have enough juice to do what they're supposed to do, much less be able to do complex functions like security. They are distributed on mobile often, as the case with, and they operate on hostile networks. They can evolve and work on many different networks. So you can have an IoT that functions on an Ethernet network and a Wi-Fi network, and then it's on a 5G or LTE network, and then it may use packet radio or RF, right? So they operate on a variety of networks. They are also unique in that, the best way to describe it is imagination-driven hardware using imagination-driven software for imagination-driven purposes, right? IoTs also operate at a completely different scale. So, and just as an example, mobile phones are ubiquitous, right? Everybody's got at least 1 or 2 mobile phones. There's 8 billion mobile phones out there, and the market is completely saturated to the point where if Verizon wants to increase their customer base, they have to steal from somebody else. Well, at 8 billion mobile phones, we think they're saturated, but even in its infancy, there's well over 20 billion IoTs out there. But the challenge is these IoTs are hidden in plain sight, right? People don't recognize things as IoTs. They recognize it as an HVAC system that happens to be connected, a vending machine that happens to be connected, a thermostat that happens to be connected. And the requirement to secure IoTs, because they're purpose-built and unique and resource challenged and power challenged, they have a life of 8 to 20 years compared to enterprises 3 to 5 years. And they operate on distributed networks, they operate on hostile networks, and they're physically accessible. Everything I've heard about this conference, we hear a lot about protecting networks. Well, IoTs is not protecting networks. None of the security tools that are dominant today are going to be sustainable when it comes to IoT, especially when you're dealing with a technology that's sitting in the Arctic Circle or floating in space, right? Satellites are IoTs, guys. So in that scenario, the whole dynamic, the whole approach you have to take to securing IoTs that are 20-year devices that are just barely have enough juice to do what they're supposed to do needs to be dramatically different.